Hi everyone and welcome back to another video. So I actually skipped class to film this video, so I hope this video is worth it in the sense that you all will enjoy it and that you all will find the content useful. So today's video is going to be about the 6 effective German learning tips that I personally found useful when I was learning German at the intermediate level. So I am still learning German, but these tips were very effective for me as a beginner to intermediate learner. But before we jump into the tips, please feel free to check out the video I made about how I got full marks on the TestDaF, and also another video I made of me speaking in German. The links will be in the description below. So the first tip I have for you is to have the right motivation, or at least a strong motivation of learning German. This is probably the most important tip I have in the video, because if you don't have a strong motivation, you're not going to force yourself to push through once the grammar gets hard or once you're struggling to construct sentences. Like, it's not enough to think that, oh, German is cool, I want to sound cool, so I want to learn it. No, that's not strong enough motivation. So what I've noticed when I was learning German at my university was that people were taking German and majoring in German for the sake of the degree, and they were learning, they were studying and everything, and that's okay. But what I found was that a lot of them never got past B1, and after graduating they didn't have any aims or intention to use it further beyond the university, so they probably forgot everything they learned before. Not everything, but you know, if you don't practice the language, it will slowly deteriorate. Don't get me wrong, I think it's great that they decided to explore a new culture and learn a new language. But I'm saying, like, realistically, if you don't have intentions of using it beyond your studies, you're not going to get past a level of fluency that you'd like to have, or a level of fluency where you can construct sentences and be halfway fluent. So for me personally, I probably started learning German like everyone else. I thought it sounded really cool because I really liked listening to Rammstein, and I found the lyrics just so cool and so beautiful. And that was the initial motivation. I didn't have any plans to move to Germany or whatever. That was just the initial motivation. It wasn't until I did a winter exchange in Germany until I found out that I really wanted to improve in the language, because I really wanted to come back to at least live here, to see how life was like here, and so that I can communicate with the people in their native language, in German. You might be thinking that most German people speak English anyway, so you can still communicate with them, but you know, that's not the point. If you speak to them in their native language, the communication is just so much deeper and so much more different. So for me, that was the motivation that was pushing me to learn, even though I found it hard. I found it hard to construct sentences. I always had the goal of coming to live here. I didn't want to be living in Germany and not speaking the language, because that would make me feel really disadvantaged, and I don't want to be disadvantaged. So that's the strong motivation that I have to keep learning German, to get to a level where I can speak to everyone without struggling a lot. My second tip for you is to speak to people who don't speak English, and also to people who don't speak your mother language. This is the best way of immersing yourself in the language, because then you'll only be thinking about German 100% of the time. So my experience was that when I was learning German at my old university, I'd speak to my fellow German learners in Cantonese when I had questions, or even after school when we had a chat, it was always in Cantonese. Because to be fair, with A1, it's kind of like hard to speak to each other. A1, A2 level, you can barely create sentences. That didn't really help us learn German, because we just go back to Cantonese. But luckily, when I did a German language program in Berlin, I made a friend who was Russian, and she didn't speak English, and we had around A2 level of German, and we befriended each other. I didn't speak Russian, so the only way we could communicate was to speak through German. And after 8 months into our friendship, we decided that we wanted to do another language course again in Germany. So we basically planned the whole trip out. We planned another 2-month trip in Germany during our summer holiday to stay at a host family and to learn German at a German language school in Cologne. And we coordinated the trip, everything in German, and we only had around A2 to B1 level. So that was really helpful for us. So you know, I get it. It's really extreme to try to find someone who can't speak English. That's probably very rare. And also someone who doesn't speak your mother language. Like you're probably not gonna find one easily. So my tip for you is if you know someone who speaks German, you can just request them to talk to you in German, because you know what, I'm studying right now and my course is fully in English, so all the Germans there, they can all speak English fluently. So what I did was I asked my friend, my German friend, to speak to me only in German so that I can improve my German, and that works out really well for us. My third tip for you is don't use textbooks as your primary main resource of learning German. I mean, yeah, textbooks are great. Textbooks are necessary when you're just starting out, when you're a beginner, you don't know the grammar. You need textbooks to learn the grammar, the cases, how the gender works. You need textbooks for that. There are a few textbooks that I use that I found really useful when I was building my foundation, and there are also some textbooks that I used that helped me get full marks on the TestDaF. The links will be in the description below. However, you shouldn't rely on textbooks so much after you reach like B1, because the thing is, textbook German is different from spoken German, exactly like how textbook English is not a representative of how people actually speak English in real life. So my tip for you is to rely on other sources too, like books or YouTube videos or TV shows or any other resource that's not so formal, so you can learn how people speak German in real life. So for me personally, I found YouTube to be a really good resource of learning German, because I found some vloggers that I really liked watching, and they speak obviously in a normal speed, and they speak to their friends not in textbook German style. They speak how normal people speak, basically. Yeah, you need to be pretty intermediate. You need to be past the beginner level to be able to understand the vlogs or to able to grasp what they're saying, but that's not a problem. Another thing I really like about YouTube is you can find German YouTubers for any topic you like. So if you like tech, there's a YouTuber for that. If you like gaming, there's so many German gaming YouTubers. If you like vlogs, there's so many vloggers. Just do your research and you'll definitely find a YouTube channel you like. I think even as a beginner, there's a channel called Easy German or something, and you can see how people speak German, but slowly, so not as fast as the vloggers. So that would be my third tip for you all. Tip number 4 is to find German music that you really like and to listen to the German music you really like. So let me tell you a little secret. The real reason, the first initial reason why I started learning German is because I really loved listening to the band called Rammstein. I really liked the lyrics, they were so beautiful to me, but I didn't understand a word of it. So when I went to university, I had the opportunity of joining a course. It wasn't that expensive, so I joined the course to learn German. And then from that, I did a winter exchange, and everything, my motivation all changed after visiting Germany in real life for the first time. But my first motivation was always the German music. Listening to Rammstein made me really want to learn German, and the great thing about Rammstein is that the lead singer, he pronunciates the words really clearly and slowly, and he pronounces it in Hochdeutsch, so that's really good for German learners. That's how I really improved my pronunciation, was to mimic how the lead singer of Rammstein pronunciates the words in the song. So that's how I improved my pronunciation. So I know not everyone likes Rammstein. It's you know, it's acquired taste, it's really heavy, you know, the lyrics are inappropriate, so not everyone is into that. But my point is, if you find a band you're emotional about, that brings out your emotions when you listen to the music, if you find a German band that does that, and if you keep listening to the music, it will really help you with your listening skills, and it's a fun way of learning German. You're not reading a textbook, so that would be my fourth recommendation to you all. My fifth tip for you all is to keep a diary or a journal or whatever you like to call it, and write in it every day. I don't do this anymore, but when I was around A1 to B1 level, I used to keep a diary and write every day. I wrote a few sentences every day in German, and I know this sounds really time consuming to write something down every single day. Yeah, it sounds time consuming, but it doesn't have to be. You don't have to write pages, you don't have to write paragraphs. If you like, you can just write 2 to 3 sentences a day. If you don't know what to write, you can just try to describe what you did during the day, or probably some random thoughts that you found important. The point is, if you're constructing sentences yourself, you learn more words than compared to if you read it, because when you're trying to build your own sentences, you're trying to actively retrieve a word and to look up a word and to look up the meaning of the word. And this way you can retain the words easier, if that makes sense. If you're writing about what you're doing every day, the mundane things, for example, you're going to learn the words that people use commonly every day. So in that sense, I found keeping a diary in German very useful. If you're serious about learning German, you're going to have to write in German anyway. There's no way avoiding it. So be it an exam, there's a written component in the exam, or maybe you want to live in Germany later, you always have to write emails in German. That's just the way it is. Like, everyone understands English, but people have to communicate in Germany in German. So there's no way of avoiding writing in German. Why not just get the practice sooner? And once you have the habit of creating sentences, it will come easier to you when you speak to. So I find this a really good way of practicing German. So my sixth and final tip for the video is to learn the noun with the gender, if you know what I mean. This tip was so useful for me when I was trying to accumulate more vocabulary. Because you know how if you know the noun, if you don't know the gender of the noun, you'll have to guess it, and if it's wrong, your sentence is wrong. So it's not good. If you want to learn German, just do it correctly. Don't be lazy about it. Learn the correct gender. So I forgot who told me this tip. It might have been my first ever German teacher. Basically, someone told me, when you learn the noun, learn it with the nominative gender. So for example, if you come across the word bread, which is Brot, you don't learn it as Brot because it's not complete. You should learn it as das Brot, because das is the gender of bread. You kind of repeat it to yourself or write it down in a notebook. In some point in time, it will just start to sound right to you. Like, if you say die Brot, it will sound super wrong. So this is kind of how you learn the genders of the noun without going through a dictionary and painfully trying to write down every word. That's not effective, that's boring, that's really hard. So always learn the noun with the gender so that you can associate the gender with the noun, if that makes sense. So my final words for this video is that no, you're not going to learn German super fast even if you follow these tips. Like, that's not how it works. It takes time to learn a language. It's not realistic to think that, oh, I'll learn the language in a few months. It doesn't work like that. It takes practice and consistency. You're not gonna learn a language really fast unless you're taking an intensive German course in Germany full time and you're living here, and you take the course for a year, and then you'll reach B2 in a year or something. I mean, in that way, of course, you can learn it pretty fast, but if you're not living in Germany, or if you're not in the position to learn German full time, you can't learn it super fast. That's just not realistic. But, you know, do things daily, watch YouTube videos daily, write in your diary daily, and then you'll build the foundations. And also, it's super important to be confident of the German grammar foundations. Like, you have to build your foundations before you can go further into the grammar. So make sure you understand how the cases work. So like der, die, das, and the genders, and how the nominative, the dative, and the genitive cases, how all of them works. make sure you understand that before you move on. If not, you're going to be having a hard time. And the last thing is that it's really important to find a balance between learning, reading and listening, and also learning writing and speaking. The difference is that if you're reading and listening the whole time, you're passively learning it because you're not constructing the sentences yourself. You're kind of just receiving it. So if someone's speaking, you're just listening to the German, and if you're reading, you're just reading the German that another person wrote, so you're not actively constructing the sentences. So you need to find a good balance. You need to make time for writing and speaking, because when you're writing and speaking, you're making the sentences yourself. You're using your own brain and you're trying to construct sentences together, and this is really important. Like, who cares if you understand German? Who cares if when someone speaks German you understand it, and if you read German you understand it? Like, it's cool, but like, you have nothing to show for it if you can't speak it or if you can't write it. Like, you still need to communicate with other people in German, so you really need to spend time on writing and speaking. I hope I'm not sounding repetitive, but that was really important for me, that I could construct sentences myself and not just say, oh, I can read German, but you know, there's nothing to show for it. So yeah, guys, don't neglect writing and speaking. So I hope this video was motivating for you, and I hope you found this video useful. I wish you the best of luck in your German language learning journey, however cringy that sounds. Leave a comment down below if you have any German learning tips that you find effective or efficient and that you'd like to share to others. If you're interested, you can also check out my previous video of the bad experiences I've personally had with DHL because of my bad luck. Have a good day and have a good weekend whenever you're watching this video. Have a good one, and I'll see you in the next video. Bye!
Top.